Conventional wisdom, an oxymoron with somewhat contrary words, like act naturally, deafening silence, or awfully good. What about conventional career wisdom? That you already know about. Unconventional career wisdom might, on the other hand, be a little refreshing and throw up some answers where conventional career wisdom falls short. This video does not contain research, it's more a reflection of our life experiences. We hope that some of it may seem familiar and draw out a few ahas as the narrative proceeds. We tend to look at our capacity and careers as a zero-sum game. To win something, I must lose something. The assumption always is that we have a fixed capacity. In contrast is the principle of abundance. Simply put, the more you do, the more you can do. So capacity is finite at a point in time, but can increase or decrease depending on how much we take on. My first brush with this was when my supervisor once told me that if I felt seriously stretched as assistant manager, how could he ever consider promoting me to manager? We now ask our children, if you get overwhelmed by a class test, then how will you cope with the final exams? If you are overwhelmed by the grade 3 syllabus, then how will you clear grade 10? So the more you do, the more you can do. And on the flip side, the less you do, the less you can do. To counter the strong religion of work, there must also exist the religion of rest. Pause and play, pause, rewind and play, paused, fast forward and play, pause, shuffle and play. Choose what you need to do at different points in your career. Frequent changes in organizations and structures often force us into accepting roles that seem like a sidestep. We sometimes feel that we've been passed over. But during these periods, those who stay focused on the work they've been given and deliver it well get noticed and respected. Organizations are constantly evaluating and re-evaluating their talent and tend to take notice of folks who handle unwelcome changes well. Haven't we heard that he's back or she is in the reckoning again? Work-life balance is elusive, period. It becomes even more elusive if we expand the definition to include in its scope the contribution we make to all the 4 buckets of self, work, family and community. I'm yet to meet a person who can confidently state that he or she is making equal progress in all the 4 spheres all the time. A more heartening way to look at work-life balance is to be able to take a long-term view rather than at a point-in-time view. Work-life balance seems a tad more attainable if we were to make it our aim to contribute to the 4 buckets over a lifetime and be okay with putting more in any 1 or 2 at any given point in time. Even a cursory look will reveal which of your buckets is empty and which one is overflowing. The deal with career anchors is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Different people have different career anchors. These anchors vary with time even for the same person, and you decide upon and make your career choices guided by these anchors. The 8 types of career anchors are lifestyle, pure challenge, general managerial competence, technical competence, security, autonomy, entrepreneurial creativity, service, dedication to a cause. The challenge is that you may or may not know your anchors and that people around you may have anchors that are quite different from yours. The most significant contribution you can make to your own career development is to be able to identify your predominant anchors and without losing any more time, get a move forward on these. Career anchors will not become apparent easily and may take quite a bit of introspection and conversations with honest and invested people. Leadership is about being out there in the front, showing the team how it is done. Right? Maybe not. At least not all the time. Allowing yourself to be led is equally powerful. Ask any leader who has backed a new idea, a different angle, an unpopular decision or a new team member. I still remember that when a new recruit from a different industry and unusual skill sets was having trouble breaking into our old boys and girls club. Our manager took this unconventional approach. He followed and placed his stock squarely behind the newbie, and in no time all of us had also taken our cues and let our guard down. The real heroine of this picture you see is the Burmese girl monk, partly obscured by the one in front. She could very well be from that breed of leaders who follow to lead. You can also see the impact of this on the third person in the picture who turns her head and takes notice of this action. If you want to be followed, then first and foremost you have to demonstrate that you're willing to follow. In the long run, irrespective of whether one's career has had an accidental or intentional origin, a clear point emerges after which things can and must turn intentional. After this point, you start making conscious choices and push your career in the direction you set for yourself. We confront the confusion between needs and wants. Why is it that we are not happy even after a promotion? Could it be that we actually needed dignity, but wanted and asked for a promotion instead? You wanted and therefore bought a big house, then you needed more money to pay the loan, and then you needed and asked for a promotion or a salary raise to pay it off. Clarifying the confusion between needs and wants helps the transition towards an intentional career. Engagement is defined as the additional and discretionary effort we bring into the work we do, the so-called zing. And the secret ingredient of engagement is discomfort. It is that rush of adrenaline that accompanies both good and bad situations. It happens when we feel the most alive and stretched. That zing never happens in a state of comfort. So by definition, conflict and drama is at the heart of a good, energizing career story. We are all for shaking up the water periodically. The sand within will look messy and hazy to begin with, but give it some time and things will settle back, albeit into a new pattern. The first element of good career guidance is a menu of available career opportunities. Jobs into which you can move on promotion or via a lateral move. To be of value to you, these must be useful and believable. Useful opportunities are those that fit in with your career plans, aspirations or anchors. Believable career opportunities are those where you would be set up for success. Jobs that have close competency matches with your current job. Usefulness demands that the menu of options be wide. Believability, on the other hand, requires that the menu of options be limited to those with a good chance of success. The second element is balanced advice. Balanced to explain the pros and cons of each option. Balance between doing the right thing for the organization and you. Balanced to serve your topmost career anchors at the time. Visible participation is the most important of the three elements for good career conversations. With the taboos about discussing aspirations and choices generally breaking, and with the amount of information available, the number and frequency of career-related conversations has shot up. The supervisor is now one of the many touch points for such discussions. But if you notice, the employee has many people and things contributing to the first two requirements about opportunities and advice, but the number of people who will visibly participate in his or her career development remains very limited. In general, employees will listen to those who seem to be managing their own careers well, those who they believe to have skin in the game, or those who are masters of the game. A visual that brings alive this concept of skin in the game is the one that you see of our elder daughter attempting to scale a wall during a recent family vacation. Halfway up the course, she froze, partly out of exhaustion, partly out of fear, and partly because she couldn't discern the next good hand or foothold. It is at this point that the magic of skin in the game unfolded right before us. One of the guides stepped forward, as you can see in this photo, and seized the moment. At times he guided her at moments of confusion, fatigue, fear, etc. At others he pulled the rope and yanked her up when she couldn't do it herself. Sometimes he just held steady and assured her that he won't let go. Sometimes he pointed to a change of track which will help her forward when she couldn't see it for herself. Sometimes he asked her to just stretch a bit more and reach out to a hold, and he rejoiced when she eventually reached the top. That day, not only did Arya clamber up, looking at her, our younger daughter Anokhi too got motivated and managed to reach the top. Effective career conversations are just so not like backseat driving, which is what the rest of us in this picture were doing. It ain't so bad to be good. Recent research by Malcolm Gladwell on mapping successful people's qualities across organizations threw up a few surprises. Prominent among these was the quality of being nice. The more the friends, sponsors, mentors, even enemies whose contributions you genuinely acknowledge, the more likely your growth and success. Many more people are responsible for our success than we ever imagined. Why would they if we were not nice? According to the research, only breakthrough innovation and step change don't require you to be nice. Oriental philosophies have a lot to offer us by way of career advice. At their core lies the notion of completeness and complementarity. We would also do well by steering clear of debates on masculine traits versus feminine traits, or generalist roles versus specialist roles. Many times we tend to make up our mind early about our preferences, and while we might be by and large correct, well-rounded experiences with both are essential in the process of career development. While the world around us changes rapidly, we can't cast our preferences in stone. The better we are at something, the more we get asked to do it. And therein, according to Mr. Gopal Krishnan, lie our bonsai traps. They are small, but they have firm roots. They take shape in our success and cause future failure. Why else do you think that people who are lauded for their can-do attitude are subsequently criticized for being yes men who always need instructions? When the going is good, remember to identify your bonsai traps. As we mature in our careers, sooner or later we come across two broad issues that need to be addressed. Not to be solved since they are not problems, but to be managed. The first one is similar to the growth pains that children experience in the limbs. One part is the pain experienced by relatively newer people managers. After having crossed over recently to the other side, they struggle to manage others. The other part of growth pain, hitting new and tenured managers alike, is that one which comes from growing from a startup to a larger, more structured organization. Demands for ever more sophisticated MIS and increased performance, influence shifts from the old boys and girls to newer stars, increased role distance from the leaders, more impersonality and alienation. The second one is analogous to the phenomenon of doctor's fatigue. This expresses itself as people having existential questions that arise because of the experience of always being on call, or feeling that the demands on them don't seem to cease, from above and below. They naturally wonder, I am supposed to take care of everything and everyone, but what about me? Who takes care of me? We can derive some comfort from the fact that these issues are usually self-limiting and benign. They tend to get better with time, and in the interim, while they persist, we can still make good progress through measures that take the edge off the pain, solutions that are designed to stretch capacity and tolerance, and interventions that energize. That 13th piece of unconventional wisdom is perhaps a fitting end to this video. Reach us at raininggray.com for your grey HR issues and greying workforce needs.